When we open up this packet, or this residence file folder, so to speak, we can see a lot of information at once, but probably the most alarming are these red X's. These red X's are in correlation to our required documents that we saw on our Today page in our snapshot. It showed us that we had 10 required documents that would need to be completed to move this packet from pending packet status to completed packet status. And these are the red X's. We can also see that we have different types of requirements. We can see some that list form out beside it and some that do not. Those that list form are the pieces of information that we would typically generate on our side, normally in reference to your lease paperwork and lease addendums. So we can see that we have some documents that are Blue Moon lease agreements or lease addendums if you are using your Blue Moon product. And we see some that are what we call custom forms. So if you do not use Blue Moon and you use your own company-specific documents, then yours may be presented as leases. But all of them will be referred to as a form inside your packet. Those that are missing form out beside it are what we call your placeholders. Placeholders is basically your storage space for anything that you would collect from your applicant or your resident to complete your process. So example, for a move-in, you may request proof of income or proof of renter's insurance to meet all of your qualification purposes to be able to move this person in. And normally, once you collected those pieces of information, you would store it inside that paper file folder in your office and file it away somewhere. Well, we're trying to get away from that paper file folder or that dependency to that paper file folder. So instead, you now have electronic storage space to be able to itemize and store those pieces of information still efficiently and centrally located within one site. I personally always like to start with forms. Anytime you have to put something in the resident's hands for them to review and sign, it typically takes a little bit longer. They're not as time sensitive as we are. So let's go ahead and get that in their hands as soon as possible so that they can start reviewing those. And in the meantime, we can ask to collect those other pieces of information as we go along. You can do either or in whatever order works best for you, but I personally like to start with forms. To do so, we're going to go into the middle of the page and I'm going to click Generate Forms. When I do that, OneSite will automatically place inside this list each and every form that is present inside this current packet. Not only that, but OneSite recognizes any form that is currently marked as a requirement. And if so, it will default it as ready to generate. So your system is doing as much possible work as it can for you. Now, these are still text enabled, so if for some reason you wanted to go against best practice or go against what the system knows needs to happen, you can select what you want to generate at this time. Just understand that all documents that are required, meaning they have that red X, will need to be generated prior to moving this person in. So I'm going to allow the system to do what it knows it needs to and generate all required documents. I'm going to click the Generate button down here at the very bottom of the window. And in just a moment, another window is going to appear. This is for your user-defined merge fields. What this means is that these are the manual questions we have to ask because there are certain pieces of information that we cannot take from OneSite, either because it is not currently stored within OneSite, we do not collect that information in OneSite, or because the information is so sensitive that it's best done manually answered. An example of that may be concessions. Concessions can be entered in a million different ways, and each manager has their own way of doing so. But when automating a document, you have to be very strict in the way that you tell people to code or enter a concession. And you can cause different error messages if you have someone that cannot break that habit. So to prevent error messages, we may make it a user-defined field so that you can still get the same information on the documents without breaking any habits, and they can still enter in the concessions as they feel comfortable in OneSite. So here we have some user-defined or manual entry points. So we have, is the unit furnished? Have they decided to investigate their apartment before or after? Have they ever had bed bugs? If so, tell me when. Is the pet housebroken? So in this instance, this is information that we just don't store within one site, so we have nothing to pull it from or automate it to. So these change household by household, so they need to be answered. But you can see here that prior to me doing anything, most of my answers have been filled out for me. And that's because the system is recognizing the common choice answer given the question for you. Again, doing as much work as it can on its own. So what I mean by that is in the example of unit furnished or unfurnished, the most common answer to this question is the unit is unfurnished. 90% of properties only have a handful that may be furnished for a corporate unit, so it defaults it to that common value for you. So 90% of the time, you're never having to change that answer, but instead just reviewing to ensure that's true and hitting save. But in the event that you do need to change a user-defined that is currently answered for you, all you need to do is click on the value and select the other option. That will mark the appropriate area on your document once generated. If the value is just left open, this means it is text enabled and you will need to type in your answer, if any. Once you've answered any of your user-defined, you'll go ahead and hit save at the bottom of the window. Now, depending on your internet speed or the size of your packet, this may take a few moments for the documents to fully generate. And here in just a moment, it's actually going to jump us right back into our packet. Now we can see a lot of different notes now in our notes column here, which was previously blank prior to us generating our forms. And each one of these notes tell us something different. So we can see the very first note is data received from Blue Moon form generated. These are for those that use Blue Moon addendums or lease agreements. This is the desired message. I call it the long message because it takes up the entire notes column. And ideally, we would want that for all of our forms, whether it be custom forms or Blue Moon forms. We always want the long message. When we go down, we can see we have two much shorter messages. One says form queued, which is what it means for a custom form that is still thinking. It has not fully pulled in all the needed information. And we have another short message called data sent to Blue Moon, which is the same thing. It means that a document has not fully generated. It has not pulled all the needed information from Blue Moon in the instance that you are using Blue Moon documents. Either way, short messages are always bad. Long messages are always good. So in this instance, we're going to hit refresh contents until we get that long message for each and every form that we generated. That may take a few moments as well, depending on the size of your packet or your internet speed. So now we can see that all of those that are listed as form that we generated now have a long message. That long message takes up the entire notes column. That's exactly what we want to see. That means that the document has fully generated, has pulled all the needed information, and is ready for us to view. The next best step is to go ahead and click Print View. Now this is very crucial, especially during the next 30 days if you've just gone live with your custom packets, as you normally have 30 days with your implementation consultant to fine-tune anything that could be wrong with your packets. We are not perfect on our side, and technology is not perfect. Your eyes are what we need to ensure that everything is generating as it should, as you guys know it better as you do it every single day. Not only that, but we always want to put our best foot forward anytime we put documents or legal binding contracts in our residents' hands. So we always need to ensure the information is good to go before sending anything to a resident for them to review. So always click Print View. This will not automatically send it to your printer, but it will open up a PDF version of what it is that you've just generated for you to review. Take your time. You'll know the areas that you will get comfortable in examining and making sure is correct. Once you've ensured that all the information is good, you can go ahead and close out. Now at this time, you are able to go ahead and collect signatures from your residents or applicants in regards to their lease paperwork that you just generated.